Okay, you probably knew this video was coming at some point. So we've just gotten past everybody's big summer showcases. Well, not everybody did a big summer showcase. Sony did kind of like a small thing. We had Summer Games Fest, of course. We had Xbox's, essentially their E3 replacement. Ubisoft had their Forward. A lot of cool stuff shown. I'm actually very happy and excited with all the games that got showed off. My list of confirmed games for 2024 has gotten a lot more bulkier, and there's plenty to look forward to. Now, I was going to do some long video about what I thought of almost each and every announcement, but by this point, almost like a week later, you've heard everybody under the sun comment on all of that stuff, and nobody necessarily needs to hear my opinion on anything. But if there was one thing I was going to talk about, it was going to be Metal Gear Solid Delta. Sorry, Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, which is a really long... I feel like they should have just called it Metal Gear Solid Delta or Metal Gear Delta or Snake Eater. I suppose you have to get Metal Gear in the name somewhere, but Metal Gear Solid Delta : Snake Eater feels a bit long. Anyway, that's not really the point of this video. So if you've watched my videos for a bit, then you're probably aware that I'm a huge fan of Metal Gear Solid. The first game is my favourite game ever, the reason I play games, blah blah blah. You've heard me say it 1,000 times that I love the series. And obviously since Metal Gear 5, the series, the franchise, whatever you want to call it, has basically been dead. Like, we don't talk about Metal Gear Survive in this house. Now, we got the Metal Gear Collection recently, or Volume 1 of the collection. I only actually picked up Metal Gear Solid 1 from that separately on its own because I already own Metal Gear 2 and 3 in HD, and from what I understand, it was exactly the same thing. But for the first time in a very, very long time, I feel like we could have hope, and I'll explain why. Because ever since I heard rumours of this remake, I was skeptical since day one. Like, if you're telling me that modern day Konami are going to remake Metal Gear Solid 3 without Kojima, like, that just sounds like a recipe for disaster. As I've said for a while now, like, Konami over the last 10 years or so feels like they're still making games out of some, like, obligation. They're not actually interested in making games, but they know that they hold a lot of valuable franchises, so they kind of crank them out. And that is very evident with the Silent Hill franchise. And, what we've seen happen to Pro Evolution Soccer. Castlevania's been dead a very long time, but anyway, the information on the face of it of Konami is going to do a remake of Metal Gear Solid 3 without Kojima seems like an absolute recipe for disaster. But as someone who just wants new Metal Gear stuff all of the time, I'm kind of in two minds about the whole thing of like, well, yeah, I'll give them an opportunity to impress me. I'll give them an opportunity to win me over. I'm not just going to completely write it off without seeing any sort of visuals or screenshots or gameplay or anything like that. And now here we are. We've had a couple trailers. We've had a handful of screenshots. We've got this big gameplay overview, which I'll most likely be having up on the screen right now. And this thing isn't looking too bad. Because in all honesty, for me, the best case scenario here is that Konami looks across the road at Capcom and copies exactly what Capcom has done, where they essentially just take the old game, give it some new visuals, modernize it just a little bit, but for the most part, keep the game the same. You're not trying to introduce a whole bunch of new and modern mechanics. You're not trying to switch up the story or fix things, I guess, or stretch it out. And from the footage that we've seen so far, like, they look like they're taking that Capcom route. They look like they're taking that Resident Evil remake route. Because what they've showed off is, or looks like, very much that old game with a new coat of paint. Which is, that description sounds a little insulting, because obviously there's quite a lot of work that has gone into this with it running on Unreal 5, and like, it does look real nice. And so I'm in this position now where there's half of me that is like, alright, let's just be patient, let's just hold out, let's not get too excited, let's just see what happens, let's wait for some more trailers to come out, let's wait for some actual gameplay to be shown. Because, so far it's been shots with, like, no HUD. It's gameplay, but it's not gameplay, if you know what I mean. If the HUD isn't on there, then it's not gameplay, in my opinion. So half of me is kind of like, let's be patient, let's see how this turns out, don't get too excited just yet. And another part of me is like, I need to pre-order the biggest special edition, collector's edition version of this game immediately. Take all my money now. Actually, small tangent here. I will say, Konami, I don't know what you're playing at, but you put out an image of that ridiculously awesome looking collector's edition with Snake in the terrarium thing, like from the opening of the game. I would have pre-ordered that instantly, but for whatever reason, you are not releasing it in the UK. I think it's only coming out in the US. I have no idea why. Considering just how popular Metal Gear is in Europe and the UK, to not release that version over here, like, that's just money you're leaving on the table, but whatever. So the room I have here, where I kind of do all of my gaming, I rearranged it not too long ago. I did like a big clear out, and I had a bunch of shelf space after the clear out, and I've decided to fill that shelf space with cool stuff. When I say cool stuff, I mean just random sort of statues, figures, whatever. I got my Master Chief helmet from the Halo 3 Legendary Edition, like back in 07. I've got like a Goku statue, you know, I've got things like that. I'm trying to put little bits and pieces on there from all of my kind of like favourite franchises, that sort of stuff. And I've been looking for something awesome and Metal Gear related for the best part of like a year. Not quite found anything yet, and then this thing comes along, and then they go, oh no, wait, it's not coming to your region. So unless I want to pay dumb money over eBay, I'm kind of screwed. Konami, you could have had like an extra £100, £120 out of me, but whatever, we'll move past it. Getting back on point, I'm watching this gameplay overview sort of video interview that they put out. They brought out the producer, I can't remember his name, I'm sorry. And, you know, he's been working on Metal Gear for quite some time now. And they are showing and saying all of the right things. Like the producer that they're interviewing in this video, you know, he spent a chunk of that interview talking about how he feels like this really big responsibility to make sure the job is done right, to make sure that they bring these games back in the right way and give new players an opportunity to play them. And so I'm thinking, has Konami, like, have they finally got their stuff together? I know people weren't very happy with that Silent Hill 2 trailer, but the thing I've noticed watching this gameplay overview, actually, and the interview with the producer, is that they're coming at this from a very, like, humble angle. There's a real apologetic tone about the Master Collection Volume 1. Not even an apologetic tone, they straight up apologise that the, you know, resolution issues, you know, with that collection. And they flat out say in this interview at one point, like, we hope the fans will like this game, and we hope that they'll stay tuned and give us feedback and keep us honest and keep us in check, I guess. Like, the whole tone of this video is, we're really sorry about Master Collection Volume 1. We hope that you'll give us another shot to prove that the current Metal Gear team is the right team for this job. Give us another chance, but also give us your feedback and don't let us slack off. So far from me, it could just be that I'm wowed by the whole Unreal 5 thing and just how sharp everything looks. So far from me, you have this really nice looking game that looks incredibly faithful so far, that also has David Hayter, that's an important part of it. And if we're about to kick off a whole new run where they do Metal Gear 3, because, you know, you have to do the third one first if you're trying to bring new people in, I guess, because it's the first in the timeline, so you go 3, 1, 2, 4. If we're just going to remake all of these in the same style that Capcom did with Resident Evil, I'm on board, I'm happy, I'll buy all 4 up front right now. Then again, as much as a sucker as I am for this series, even if it's bad, I'll probably buy it just to see how bad it is. But it's nice to have hope. I genuinely thought that this series was dead and gone. I thought that they would just churn out those master collections, let those sit out there and then just move on. Is it going to be weird that Kojima's not involved? Yes, but at the same time, with these being remakes, if they are just going to remake what was already there, you don't really need him to be involved because you're just going to recreate his and that team original work. Kojima not being involved only really becomes a problem if you are creating something new. So if all of the quirkiness and the craziness is retained, but just in 4K, it should, in theory, be smooth sailing. And you can hear the cogs turning in my head right now as I'm just constantly trying to sell myself on the idea of like, oh, this is going to work. This is going to work. They're going to pull it together. They're going to do a really good job with this. It's going to be amazing, and it's going to sell really well. And they're going to remake 1 and 2. You're hearing me in real time just generate reasons off the top of my head of why this is going to work, and sort of hype myself up. I gotta be honest, when you've been playing games as long as I have, it happens to all of us. Same with the movie industry, same with the music industry, the games industry is no different. At the end of the day, things change. And over time, the things that were really popular in your day and the things that you loved and were super into, eventually they're not the big dogs anymore. They're not the trend anymore. You know, styles change. Back in my day, it was whoever could create the maddest and biggest action game. Your Halos and your Metal Gears, like, those were top of the pile. Those were the big, like, people were buying PlayStation 3s for Metal Gear 4. People were buying PS2s for, well, they were buying PS2s for the DVD player, let's be honest. But they were also buying it for Metal Gear and Final Fantasy. You know, those were the big games in my day. To see something like this that was an incredibly large part of your formative years be recreated in a faithful way, like, it's hard to get across how exciting that is. Like, I want to see this series come back in a big way. I know it's not going to do God of War, Spider-Man, Last of Us numbers. It'll probably sell under like 10 million, I guess. But I just want a reason to be excited about this franchise again. And this recent trailer has given me a decent amount of hope. It's pushing me over to the edge of, like, I was on the fence, and it's pushing me over to the side of the fence where I'm like, oh no, yeah, this is going to work. This is going to be fine. This is going to be great. This is going to be amazing. Get excited. Get excited. Metal Gear is back. Anyway, you've listened to me long enough. I'm out of here.